Hey everyone, you're watching Conversations in Pop Culture. I am your host, Andrew Davis, and this episode is brought to you by my sponsors, Mixum Printing, the smarter way to print. I know printing your creative project can be confusing and stressful, but Mixum is here to make it easy. From their instant quote calculator that lets you get as many quotes as you want for free to their 24-hour customer service support, Mixum is here to make sure your printing experience runs smoothly from start to finish. And right now, you can choose from a range of premium printing options and materials. And the company has also printed so many successful Kickstarter campaigns. A bunch of them you have even heard about on this very show. And they currently offer services in the United States, Canada, Australia, and the UK. And Mixum can print and reach your audience anywhere in the world. So if you're ready to print smarter, not harder, head over to Mixum.com. And right now, listeners of my show can drop my name, Andrew Davis, in a message tab of a current order to get a 5% discount on their first order. So that is Mixam.com. Again, type my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of your current order to receive a 5% discount on that order. Also, we are brought to you by a Kickstarter that just launched, Welcome to Slaughterville. From the depths of the award-winning board game of fun and horror, Slaughterville comes a graphic novel following the adventures and trials of Slaughterville's latest victims. Issue 1 follows Beth and her fiancé John as she returns to the town that took her family. Will she find justice or will the beast within devour them? Back Slaughterville Book 1 on Kickstarter now and be ready when Book 2 launches this summer. It's got an amazing cover by Mark McKenna. Really cool thing. It's a board game too, so go check that out. And then finally, I just like to show these off. I got my metal cards. You can buy this on eBay. And then this one is limited to 121. And then this one is my exclusive Bad Girl art. And it's limited to 50, but I'm only selling 40 of these. And you can buy that right now up on eBay. Links are in the description for everything. So go buy my metal card. I need the money desperately. And I have with me comic creator Ed Davis. So welcome back to the show for the 4th, 5th, or 6th time. I'm not too sure now.
Yeah, I think it's 4.
Yeah, so welcome back.
Oh, thank you for having me. I always love coming back.
Yeah, I like your book. So, and then I enjoy reading it. I don't know what happens in issue 6 beyond the Kickstarter because I want to be surprised just like everybody else. And I sort of just tipped my hat a little bit where you're on issue 6 and you're wrapping up the first arc. So let's catch everybody up who is hearing about the Immortal Hour for the first time. What is the basic concept of the comic? Because there's a lot of stuff going on now in it.
Yeah. So the basic concept is it takes place 200 years in the future in a world it's a post-apocalyptic world. And in this world, no one can die. So we find out kind of what's happened to humanity for 200, where they've lived for 200 years without death. Half the population is forced to live underground in abandoned subways, and the other half live in big crumbling cities. So it centers on a group that live underground, and they're on a quest to find a way to bring death back into the world, restore the natural life cycle, and save all of humanity by killing them.
And we're done, everybody. Great episode.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, because there's a lot of stuff going on. And I definitely want to talk about this because you've clearly taken a different approach to death and understanding. People talk about the quest for immortality, obviously with the Philosopher's Stone, magic, possibly doping, for lack of a better word. And you've created death as a character. And once death dies or is killed or basically scattered across the world, nobody now can die because death is sort of taking them out of this world. And it's a very different interpretation. And I think that I haven't seen that before. And so what was this like? Because the first 6 issues barely focus on death as a character, but it's over in the background. So what was that like really building this out? Because it's such a different perspective on seeking immortality.
Yeah, it's always basically with the story, I've kind of written so many pieces of it where there's been a group of witches. This coven has been on a quest for years and years and years. They're trying to find a way to end death in the world. And it takes, the actual figure of death. Every 1,000 years, a window opens where death has to materialize in the real world. And that gives them the opportunity to actually kill him. So kind of issue 2 spoilers, but when we're on issue 6, I'm not so worried about that. So it gives this opportunity for Death to actually be killed. And what we haven't seen, and what eventually we will, because I'm writing pieces and backstories through all different years, is they've tried it every 1,000 years and failed, but this time they actually succeed. So they succeed in killing Death. As you said, his pieces are scattered around the world and they're kept guarded. And that's something we kind of focus in on in the second story arc. The first story arc is leading our heroes on the way to actually recover that first piece of Death, because the story arc is called Pieces of Death, and each story arc will focus on recovering a new piece and trying to unite all of the pieces and hopefully restore Death back into the world.
Yeah, and to even go further into this, because obviously once we're recovering pieces and these characters are recovering pieces, we are furthering seeing how this world is operating. And 200 years into the future, you got massive problems where people are living underground in abandoned subway stations and messed up catacombs, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And then you also have the rich, the wealthy living above, and then you have people living in poverty above as well. And
Yeah.
what was this like really building out the world? Because it is now super interesting, and there is massive division class happening. People are resorting to cannibalism, people are resorting to other positions, and we're seeing it on every single level, from the highest all the way down to the bottom. And so what was this like really building this out? Because you've done a lot of world building, and it's a real skill, I think, of yours that you've done in this story, is you've really built out this world and not just one component of it. We have the upper city, and then we have Hope Village, where the main group of characters are, and we know both sides.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really wanted to flesh out both worlds, because there would be just this feeling of superiority. And there's a whole secondary arc that I've written, because in the very opening of the series, it starts with a little 4-page showing this reporter, and he's discovering that, this immortality thing that the news is trying to write as a nice fluff piece. Like, oh, great, no one's died. He's showing the reality of that. You have gunshot victims, you have car accident victims, and they are in a terrible state of just suffering. And I've written kind of the in between, and eventually want to start putting those out in little snippets throughout the series, so we can see what kind of led to this world where there was lotteries, who would be able to even get a chip and stay on the surface. And if you didn't get that chip, you better get down, because otherwise you're going to immediately be hunted. So I wanted to kind of create a really rigid class system. And like you said, even on the surface, there's division. There's the upper elite, and these would be, the millionaires and billionaires of our world right now. And they're kind of running things. They're creating all of the inventions, and they keep the flow of that world going. And at the same time, they're squashing down the people that live there. But even the bottom class of the upper society feel this huge superiority to the ones who are stuck underground. So everyone has someone they can kind of look down on, except for the poor people that are stuck in this underground. And Hope Village is kind of an actual sustainable, peaceful village, but the rest of the underground is just complete chaos. It's, it's every man and woman for themselves. And like you said, there's a roaming group of cannibals. There are multiple gangs and things like that we haven't touched on yet. And then what I'm trying to do as I build each story arc is expand the world, because what we see is such a small amount of what exists in this full universe. We see the city, we see the underground, but there's so much that exists beyond that. And that's where they're going to have to start venturing, because the pieces of Death aren't all hidden in the city conveniently for them. They're going to have to go into all of these different wastelands and find exactly, what the world looks like outside of this small, the small amount that we've seen.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into that because that's kind of where the next story is going. But I do want to just quickly introduce everybody to certain characters, and obviously we have Ari, and this is what Ari looks like, who's one of the main characters, and she's massively up on the surface, maybe illegally, along with Kimberly, along with Miguel, and then this is father, who sort of stays behind in a lot of ways to defend
Yeah.
Hope Village, and those are sort of the main characters. And obviously, going into issue 6, Ari, Kimberly, Miguel are looking for the piece of Death, and they're dealing with a gang that wants to protect Death, which is a whole complicated issue because obviously that gang, I think, likes the fact that they can't die
Yeah.
and sort of likes the anarchy to some degree. And
Yeah.
that raises a whole interesting question in of itself, is that maybe some people like this new world because it
Oh, yeah.
grants certain privileges. And that's a very different interpretation and viewpoint than what this group has and what Dr. Mann has.
Yeah.
Versus, who then maybe some people don't want humanity to be saved because while it's not great, they also have the freedom to sort of take power and have control chaos. And so what was that like? Because that's the first time in this book that we're seeing that idea being thrown around. And especially on a lower, I guess, class level as well. Because we don't see it in the upper classes, that attitude.
Yeah.
We see them wanting to control power, but we don't see the reason why. And so what was that like, teasing that out there?
Yeah, we would see that in a world like this, there would be very specific groups that think, you know what, I may still age, I may still get sick, but I love the fact that I won't die. And you can blast my arm off, I'm going to get a robotic arm, slap that on it, and I'm good to go. We have a character who all that's left is his head, and he still functions in this society. So you have people that would fight with everything they have to make sure that it stays the way it is. They're completely content with the status quo. And then you have those that are, the very bottom, they realize that there was something else, that the world had more meaning when there was actually a life cycle in it. And they're trying to find a way to bring that meaning back because the characters in the underground, one of the characters down there is Dr. Mann, as you mentioned. He was one of the elite of society. So he's brought down with him all the knowledge of the past, and they've seen what it looked like before the world was just thrust into this immortality, and they know there's a better way. So that's what they're fighting for. The people on the surface, they're walking around with blinders. We have a scene where everyone's walking around, their face is kind of looking at a futuristic tablet, and they're not paying attention to anything in the world. They don't care about the past. They know right now I'm in my best place. I get to wander this city, and I don't need to pay attention to the cockroaches down there in the underground. I'm just going to live my happy life. And they are perfectly content to keep it that way. And some are more than content. They're willing to fight to make sure that nothing changes the way the world is right now.
Because it's so interesting because obviously there's so much stuff going on with it, and there's ignorance, and we haven't seen much of a resistance on the surface. And I'm presuming, and I could be completely wrong, but human nature would insist that there are probably some people on the surface who want to change the way things are too, but we haven't seen that either. And it's so interesting that we have such a stark class division going on. And we haven't seen opposition. And then we also learn about other things and also about massive corruption and what happens when people's bodies start to break down. And the idea of getting mobility. I'm back. So this is, as I was stating, there's all these deep psychological questions that are now being asked, really, in issues 4, 5, and even in 6 in a lot of ways. And it's so interesting because clearly, as if you're 150 years old, your body is not going to operate the same way it did when you were 50 years old. but
Mhm.
you can't die. And what would you do to get back mobility? And what freedoms would you give up? And it's really just a fascinating psychological story, what's going on, not to mention an issue of freedom. What do you do with population? And even just the mastermind behind even who's really in control and making a lot of these decisions and convincing
Yeah.
the masses. Because that's the other thing too, is that how far does it go up the chain? And this is why
Yeah.
your world is so interesting.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm trying, basically all the things you're talking about are questions that I have to address before I even start to put pen to paper. It's like, okay, I don't want to leave a bunch of unanswered questions. That would be the worst thing. I always think of Lost. It's like, all right, you're going to introduce a million questions and you're going to answer like 5 of them. And I don't want to be the guy who brings in all these questions and moral conundrums and be like, hey, I'm going to give you a couple of those. The other ones, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing. So no, I want to make sure that I think of all these things. And there is definitely a puppet master who's pulling all the strings on the surface and making sure that things stay the way that they want them to stay.
So to even talk about that, because one of the things that I think that people need to know is that you're going for at least 30 issues, if not
Yeah.
more. And I got a feeling you're not going to stop at 30. I have a feeling the story is not ending at 30. I'm willing to put money on it. You might disagree. It's all right. But
I think what'll happen is the core story will be told, but there's so much more to be told after it. So I agree. I think it would be 30 to tell the main story, and that's the one with Ari, Miguel, Kimberly, Father, Dr. Mann. But there's so many other stories that this world can tell. And I think, yeah, I would love to go back and just say, all right, let's start a series that starts right here in the year 2000 when everything begins, and you can tell a story that fills in those 200 years, and there's a lot to tell. What led it to the way it is right now? I mean, I can tell it in snippets, but it's a richer story that I'm sure when I'm done, I'll want to go back and address it, because I can't imagine finishing issue 30 and be like, all right, Immortal Era, you've been in my head for 20 years. Now I'm done. It's like, nope. I'm sure there's plenty more story to tell when it all comes down to it.
so to even talk about this, because when you're building out complicated worlds, and I don't know if Larry Higgins, who's Niobe Comics, is still watching, but he has Niobe, and that's becoming a semi-complicated world. And there's a lot of moving parts in his world. And it's a great book. It's on Indiegogo. If you missed the Kickstarter, I recommend checking it out if you like Bad Girl art, because he's got a lot of great covers. But even figuring out how to build out a complicated universe, where Tyrone Jackson, Thomas Johnson II Thomas Johnson has 12 books in his
Okay.
first arc. And some of those books are direct sequels, and even figuring out where to place a universe. Because
Yeah.
I can't imagine, when I write a comic, I'm writing a 4-issue miniseries, and then maybe I'll write a sequel, but I don't have no desire to write in 30 issue bursts because it's complicated. And so what is that like, and how do you even address that, saying, hey, do you have an idea where things need to go? Or is it that you have a Bible? And I don't mean a church Bible, but I mean saying, hey, here are the rules of engagement in my world. And the reason why I bring that up is that I use the analogy where if somebody kills you, if you have a good enough Bible, somebody technically could take over your story.
Yeah.
If you had a good enough Bible.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we want that. We don't. We don't want that. I want to clarify.
No. I'm hoping no one's coming out to assassinate me, but I think
Andrew, where'd you go for 4 weeks? Ed disappeared. Andrew, where'd you go?
Yeah.
I said, hey, I went on vacation. I didn't do it.
I think with I have extensive notes that basically tell the origin of every character in the story, and basically notes that move the plot along. I know what every story arc, I know what needs to happen. There's always a major beat. So I have all the major beats written down. Unfortunately, it's scattered over so many notebooks that I think if someone tried to decipher it, they'd be like, I hate this guy. I have no idea where to move everything, but the pieces are all there. Someone would just have to be a master puzzle builder to assemble
I'm
them all in the right way.
I'm going to ask you a question. Are you familiar with Full Metal Alchemist?
Yes.
So you've taken the alchemist approach to hiding your research, which is your comic
Yeah.
book.
I mean, somewhat, I guess. There's notebooks, and if you just started digging through all of them, you'd be able to think like, all right, here's Miguel's origin story. Where does it
Putting in
fit in the overall story? That's where people would need to figure it out. Because I know, okay, that's going to be the main focus of the third story arc. And the second story arc is focusing on Father. And I just finished the full script for Father's origin story. And it will be the first thing that really pulls us deeper into the universe, because we'll finally leave the city and find the first place that, that we'll see that exists beyond the small scope. And then with Miguel's, it'll take us even farther. So each arc is to take us deeper into it. And I know I have notes. Okay, this arc, here's all the major beats. I mean, you have to fill in all the small parts, the small character building things, but the big arcs, I think someone could take all the notes and know, okay, I know exactly where the story needs to go. The ultimate ending, I definitely know what that's going to be. And I've talked to a few people that know it as well. So if someone were to talk to my wife, who was working as editor on the book for all of issues 1 through 5, if they talk to her, she could fill in a lot of the blanks, because she knows the ultimate fate of all the different characters as well.
Because you brought up Lost, and the whole reason why I'm asking is that once you start going 12 issues, 16 issues, 20 issues deep, 30 issues deep, 50 issues deep, you're now not playing anymore in a 6-issue mini arc. You're not getting in and out, where in a 6-issue mini arc at the least is 18 months if you really are crazy and realistically, and at the longest you're talking 3 years. A 30 issue on Kickstarter is at minimum at least 8 years. You've done it about 8 years on Kickstarter, but for probably more normal people, or more realistically, or at a certain speed, maybe 10. And that's a big commitment. That's a big, commitment from readers, commitment from a writer, and a variety of other stuff. And then also it's a big universe at that point, because if you're spending 10 years building something out and developing a baby, it gets complicated. And that's why I'm so curious, because most people don't want to write 30, 40, 50 issues.
Yeah.
It's complicated, but also I would imagine it's very rewarding too, because I was saying, hey, look, what happened in issue 3 is now relevant in issue 9.
Yeah. And I love to throw Easter eggs in there. And you actually made it a connection unknowingly. We see something happen in issue 3. It's one small page in issue 3 that directly connects and moves the entire plot of issue 9. So I try to make sure that I put small things in there that you need to actually read it more than once to think, okay, I remember this one little panel, and all of a sudden it has this deep connection much farther into the series. So that's something I really try to do, is actually make sure that readers need to do it more than once. That maybe you're going to go back when the next when the first trade comes out, and you're going to be reading issue 9 or issue 10, and you'll be like, oh wow, I just caught that this connects to this. And issue 8 has connections, and we'll see things that happened in issues 1 and 2 that connect directly to issue 8. So I try to keep the connections going so that there's always Easter eggs to try to hunt down.
Yeah, and I think that's also very important as well, where it's the idea that building, I guess, vertically is very cool versus, I don't know what, horizontally, which is what, and look, there's nothing wrong. If you're building horizontally, if you got 4 different comics and they all don't relate to each other, that's building horizontally. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you can't build vertically, but also building a world on top of a world, and you have another book in that same world is very rewarding, I think. Even if they don't necessarily interact with each other, I'll give a great example. It's a direct sequel, but Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z go right into each other in a lot of ways.
Yeah, they're fully connected.
It's very rewarding as a reader, in a lot of ways to see that, or Naruto and Boruto to do that
Yeah.
as well, where they're not directly related to the point where one doesn't go directly into the other. There's a bit of a time gap, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm familiar with that world. Or Legend of Korra might be a better example. But anyway, enough of me not talking about products that are yours. Clearly, I'm a very, very bad host. Selling everybody else's merch except my guests. But getting into issue 6, because that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah.
And that's what I really want to talk about, because I think it's very interesting, because they're now finding Death. They're dealing with a gang they have issues with that want to protect Death. And then Dr. Man and Father have made a conscious decision to stay back in Hope Village to defend it from Koa. And hopefully I got that name right. And I don't think I'm ruining anything too much. But
No.
What was that like, dividing the story now? Because you've created a fork in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that was something I knew needed to be done, because the characters weren't all going to move around as one cohesive unit. Because you leave Hope Village alone, it's going to get completely trashed. Because really there's a lot of younger people that are living there, but they're not true soldiers. So they're able to, fire weapons to try to defend themselves. But the true warriors are Ari, Miguel, and Ari and Miguel. And they're up there. They're being forced to trying to get that piece of Death, but they're leaving the village vulnerable, because you put those two in the mix, and anyone trying to attack the village is not going to have a great chance. But you leave Father alone, and you have essentially one strong warrior, and you have to worry about a lot of problems coming your way.
Yeah, because it creates a very interesting position as well, where it's the idea of what are you willing to sacrifice to restore humanity, or attempt to restore humanity. And also, they have to know, Father has to know, Dr. Man has to know, that this journey to completely restore humanity, this is one step to getting a piece of Death back, and slowly getting onto the right track, and even to make that sacrifice, and also potentially have a home to come back to, and there are real consequences now being made, and real decisions. And now it's like people have skin in the game. And so that's when that sort of happens, where issue 6 is very pivotal, where now everybody has a sacrifice and skin in the game. And I don't know if Ari, Miguel, and Kimberly know the full extent of the skin they're about to have in the game.
Yeah. I don't think any of them realize, because Miguel has been always searching for clues to figure out exactly why the life cycle changed for people. But I don't think he ever realized quite how deep everything goes, that there's that it's built on myth. He's thinking he's going to go, find a scientific paper, and that's going to explain everything. And you were talking about people on the surface. I've thrown little hints in there. If you look at issue 2, Dr. Man's receiving basically an email. Well, those emails are coming from a group up on the surface. So there is a group of people on the surface that realize the best quest that they can be on is the one to bring Death back into the world. But again, it's just, we're seeing snippets, and that's something you see him reading an email in issue 2, and maybe that won't be addressed till issue 12. That's even the 3rd story arc. So little things, like I said, I try to hide those Easter eggs, but the characters are definitely way out of their element. Father doesn't realize just how basically his dealings with Koa in the past are now coming back to him, and he doesn't realize what he created. Basically, he's created a monster, and now he has to deal with that monster. And Ari and Kimberly Ari, Kimberly, and Miguel are just in a hornet's nest. They don't realize it, but they're they're upsetting a lot of people. And as I said, a puppet master in this world isn't liking what's happening right now.
Yeah, and I don't want to dive too much into to sort of what happens, because obviously Hope Village is not going to be the same after issue 6.
Yeah.
Ari, Miguel, Kimberly are not going to be the same. I think
Yeah.
it's safe to say they're going to have some interaction with death per
Yeah.
se. Ari, Miguel, and Kimberly, and I don't think that's much of a spoiler. Whether they
Yeah.
get that piece of death or somebody else gets it, or they're going to have to come back to that piece of death and
Yeah.
run with their tails between their legs. That's up for debate on what exactly happens.
Yeah.
But now they're actually engaging with getting an artifact. And I guess the big question that's about to happen is that, are they going to be able to go back to the underground?
Yeah.
Or is it now they're going to be moving out into the world and the underground is a thing of the past? And what will every other city look like? And how messed up are we about to get? And is Orange the New Black in the Immortal Era coming?
Oh, it's definitely going to get messy, because that's kind of, once they've gone beyond just, okay, here looking for a newspaper article and looking for the basic things, once they've actually encountered a piece of death, things, like you said, everyone in that universe is changed. And even those people that don't realize things are changing, they're going to be changing fast. And by the end of the second story arc, this entire world, the surface, the underground, is going to be completely turned upside down. So it's not going to be the safe haven for anybody. And that's kind of what I need to build toward, is to see, all right, how can they still function in this world wherever they are, and knowing that they're, they don't have the comfort of, I'm going to scare off a few of these cannibals that try to break in the village, and I'm going to, just live a basic, simple life that they were living before. So that's gone, and what's going to replace it, that's kind of where the story's going to grow from there.
Yeah, it's getting very interesting, because this is a massive expansion of how we're sort of in, and we have been slowly introduced in a lot of ways into things, and now we're getting a whole big dose of a bigger world. And Orange is the New Black, Immortal Era is coming. I'm telling everybody, it's coming. It's gonna be great. Joking aside, though, and that's a joke, because that's where this story, I think, is about to get really interesting for you. Is that it's, what do you do when you're now really dealing with, not necessarily you're dealing with a government, you're dealing with people who want to protect where they're at, and the stakes just got a fuck ton higher as well. And that's the other thing too, is that the real threat, and I think everything that Ari, Kimberly, and Miguel has dealt with, is going to be child's play in a lot of ways, and that's where this gets super interesting. And the next 24 issues, it's going to be interesting. And then also, we've learned certain things about Dr. Mann, and we learned further things about Dr. Mann in issue 5, and I think even in a little bit in issue 6. And then we're learning more about Father, we're learning more about Miguel, and that's just going down further into it and realizing how screwed up things have gotten in 200 years, which is also fascinating. And also, we're going to probably learn about Miguel, Ari, Kimberly, and some of their origins.
Yeah.
And really who they are, what they are, who they're related to, and things like that, because that's where things get a lot more fun. And I'm purposely throwing all this stuff out there for a reason, and you don't have to answer any of it. but things are about to get very complicated, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to do, and then it'll quiet down for a little bit and then get completely crazy again, because I mean, it's, when you're writing a series like this, you have to have your certain issues, like issue 4, that's pretty much just an action issue. It's, it's not a lot of story building. It's just, character fights character. So we'll have issues like that, but then issue 7 will kind of quiet things down and build towards something, even bigger than what we're seeing at the end of this one. I want each one to have a little different feel and tone, but all building toward the bigger ultimate ending of the story.
So to even talk about that, because obviously pacing a single issue is complicated in and of itself, and there's a million ways how to write a comic. You
Yeah.
can start off with like a high intense action scene, calm down the middle, and then end strong. Or
Mhm.
you could take an upward stream where you start off nice and slow, and then you kick it up really, and you gear it all the way up into something.
Yeah.
Or you could go and basically have a first issue introducing all the characters. There's a million ways how to pace a book.
Yeah.
Let alone though, now you're almost, because when you're doing 30 issues, you need to figure out how to pace it, because
Yeah.
issue 4 of that is not issue 4 anymore per se.
Yeah.
That's sort of just all, because this is, in a lot of ways, once you get to that stage, it's a clump of panels all linked together at
Yeah.
a certain point when you have enough of that.
Mhm.
So what is that like for you figuring out the pacing? Because you still have to kickstart it though as well.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, you're not DC or Marvel where you have 3 issues of Batman knowing that people have their previews and they're going to pick them up anyway, because you still have
Mhm.
to fund your book, but you
Yeah.
need that calming issue to make sense to set up issues 5 and 6, and that's what 4
Yeah.
does. But you still got to make it interesting enough. It's a headache, I would imagine.
Yeah, and that's the tricky part, because you have to you can't have nonstop action. For 30 issues, people are going to get tired of it. Like, okay, here we go. More action, more action, more action. And
Hey,
you
hey,
can't
hey,
have
I'm
pure
down for it.
character
Don't get me
development.
wrong.
They'll
You
be
give me
asleep on
pure
that if
action,
you're
man. Ooh, I'm good.
yeah, and people want a balance between the two, and I think that's the hardest thing to strike is, okay, how much do I want to just focus on the character development, and how much do I want to focus on big action? Because I'll say I love writing big action books. We're writing issue 6, writing issue 4. Those ones are fun because you're writing big crazy moments. But when you write an issue like issue 3, that was one that took forever to write because it's pure character development. So those ones are harder, but I think they're vital to the story, especially when you look at the overall story that will be told when it's all done. You have to have those quiet moments, the calm before the storm moments, and then just kind of the aftermath. Like, okay,
Do
let's
you
all
also
regroup. We just had our asses handed to us. Where do we go from here?
Did you also feel though that at a certain point you have to trust your audience,
Yeah.
where certain issues might bring in more people by nature, and other issues
Yeah.
just on a business level might back off people, or your audience might just maintain. You have to say, look, I know I'm going to make money on issue 6, 5, and 3, but I know on
Mhm.
issue 4 I'm going to get funded and I'm not going to lose money, but I got to
Yeah.
play the long game, because
Yeah.
I'm at the stage where I'm trusting my audience. I'm
Mhm.
also trusting a whole process.
Yeah.
And I know in my eBay business, and it's slightly different, that I pick up certain books and I know in a year to 18 months, I'm going to triple, if not quadruple my investment. But I
Yeah.
know, because I trust the book and I trust my customer base enough
Mhm.
that they're going to pick up that book. They're just
Yeah.
not buying it today. And
Yeah.
that's fine. So I'm curious how you view that, because that's something that I feel people don't want to talk about on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And it's tricky. And I'm probably going to be in, you'll be the first to hear this. I actually am thinking about on Thursday hosting a whole comic book roundtable. Do
Mhm.
you back a project because the creator, or do you back a project because of its comic or what it's doing or its story?
Yeah.
And I think that's also part of that question to some degree. I'm
Mhm.
curious how you sort of deal with both of those topics, because definitely an issue 3, which is pure character development, doesn't have the big explosions in it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the hard thing, because people want action, and I've been working at different cons, and people will come up to the table and they'll see kind of the huge explosion on the cover of issue 4, and I want that issue. And I try to tell them, oh no, it's a big overall story, and you're going to be kind of lost if you jump in an issue 4. They're like, no, ship blows up. That's the one I want. So you realize, okay, that's a particular market, and they don't want things to drag too much. And I have a guy who's come up to me. I've met him at multiple cons, and he always says, yeah, I hate those indie comics that just drag and drag and drag. So you can't be that one either. So you have to find the balance between the two. And what I did with issue 3, when I did the Kickstarter, I actually launched 2 and 3 together, because 2 is kind of a big revealing issue, and 3 is that quieter kind of getting us to the next step. It's, more moving chess pieces kind of issue. So I put those ones together so that, you kind of get the best of both worlds in the series. And when issue 7 comes out, I'm probably going to, knowing that it's a quieter issue, that people are, after issue 6, it's kind of, that one should be that one that leaves readers just blown away, I'm hoping. And issue 7 really slows down the pace. So I want to market that one with the actual trade paperback so that you can buy the trade and issue 7. So those who haven't read it ever, they can get that trade and start from there. And then they need to buy the trade plus whatever one new issue, or they just choose to buy the trade and maybe they come back and buy the back issue later. So finding a way to market the quieter issue together with something else, I think, is the solution that I'm going to have to go with.
It's something I'm figuring out as well on a little bit of a different issue with interviews. One of the things is that if you have a quieter guest or an indie guest, you want to put that person booked on, and optimizing it is a disaster. It's something that I'm working out and trying to figure out. But if I have a very outspoken or somebody who gets attention, I might want to put a quieter guest either before or after, or lesser known guest, because that boosts both of those people up, and I might be able to convert. Great examples. I had Dawn Mateague on with JP Roth. If I had a no-name indie comic person on who was just starting out, that person in that interview would have benefited either before or after that other interview. And it's something that I'm figuring out where to place things. And, it's not always perfect, but definitely that helps, I would imagine. Not to mention that, also it probably helps as well just on even a production level, because your both books can carry each other in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm hoping for, is that the trade will help carry issue 7, because and I'm also hoping issue 7 for some people can be kind of a jumping off, because it pays to read the whole thing. But if you read issue 7 completely by itself, you should hopefully still be able to understand what's going on, and you can jump on for arc number 2, because the editor that I brought in for issue 7 hadn't read my series before. So he was editing it with no prior knowledge of anything that had happened in the series, and was still able to understand it and know what it's doing to move the story forward. So he had to go back after he read issue 7 script and read the first 6 issues. And from that point, he knew more what was going on, but he was able to understand it without going back. So I can also say, okay, you missed the first 6 issues. Don't worry about it. Here's your jumping on point. I mean, I don't do, previously in Immortal Era, we don't start with something like that, but
you should absolutely.
Yeah. Do that. Do one of those recap episodes like every anime does for the first one of the new season.
You should just have a recap issue.
Yeah. It's like, here you go. Issue 7 is just going to tell you what happened in 1 through 6.
You just have it like an issue 6.5.
Yeah, I guess you could do that. Just piece together some art and be like, here you go. Here's your quick review. But I'm hoping that people can read it and still understand it with or without the quick review. But I'm hoping that they'd read it, understand it, and say, okay, I want to go back and see all that other stuff that they're kind of mentioning.
No. It makes sense, but I also think the idea is that all of a sudden you have a trade paperback.
Yeah.
Because this is one of the things that I don't look at graphic novels as investing, and I
Yeah.
look at them as reading.
Yeah.
Where I want to read a graphic novel. I'm
Hmm.
not interested in making money on a graphic novel. I'm interested
Yeah.
in making money on a floppy.
Yep.
And yeah, I can get attacked for it. It's a big debate. People view floppies as reading. I view them as an investment vehicle for
Yeah.
myself. And that's a whole different discussion for a whole different day.
Yeah.
And it's an opinion. It is not a fact. I've done well in making money on comics, and certain
Hmm.
floppies are worth money. And you never know what's going to happen with property and intellectual property and
Yeah.
indie comics, and all that stuff is very important. But I think it is. I think the trade paperback is going to be a very good thing because I think that's where people are going to jump in on.
Yeah. And that's what I tell people with the trade is that's what you read till the pages fall out. Because I have so many trades that literally have pages falling out. Because I read them and I read them and I read them. And the single issues, I would read them once, and at that point, put them in their bag and board, and I read them super carefully. So yeah, I'd look at the same ways. Like I don't want to mess up that single issue. I'll read it once, and then it goes put away for safekeeping for later. And then, once the trade comes out, that's what you read until it's completely dead.
Yeah, because and also I am the type of reader that I want to read 6 issues long. Yeah. As I was saying, I don't like waiting 4 months
Yeah.
between issues. It's just not
Mhm.
the type of reader I am, and
Yeah.
it drives me crazy. And that's another thing about trades that I find super helpful in that
Mhm.
regard.
Get it
But
all in one shot, not having to wait and wait.
so that's how I view it, and maybe
Mhm.
I'm a little different than everybody else. I have a Comixology subscription, and my
Mhm.
favorite thing is all the graphic novel stuff on
Yeah.
Comixology because I legitimately can sit down, chill out. It's 10 o'clock at night. I turn it on, and I read on my iPad, and it
Yeah.
is beyond helpful
Mhm.
because it's easy and it's there, and
Yeah.
that's how I view things. But I digress on that front. So I think your trade, and I think especially on a Kickstarter, for issue 7, with the graphic novel is going to do good. I really do because I think it makes sense.
That's what I'm
But we're not
hoping.
up to that point, everybody. We're still on
Yeah.
issue 6, and
Yep, that's
so
that's future me worrying about that one.
and so I do want to talk about rewards.
All right.
Um, you can get digital copies of issue 6. You can get digital copies of all the issues. And I think I have pictures. I have pictures somewhere. Hopefully I do somewhere, and I'm looking for my pictures. So I am absolutely I have pictures, guys. So that's one. Okay, we got one, guys. This is 2. Okay, this is 3. So this is a sick cover, man. Gotta say, this is
Yeah.
3. This is 4, which is also a really cool cover. This is 5, which I like how you changed your logo because that's a dope logo as well. And then I think this is one
That'll
of
be
the
6.
yeah. I wanted to make
That
sure I wasn't sure.
that's the regular cover for number 6. It's not lettered yet. As soon as it's lettered, we'll get it up there so people can see the lettered one, but it's kind of lettering is the last step of the process. So that's just that's one of the splash pages from issue 6 right there.
Yeah, I wanted to show this because I think this is an awesome splash page.
Yeah, I love that page. I actually just sold that page, which was like, oh, hurts me to sell it, but I sold the original artwork for that page and it went quick. All my original artwork that I've put up, I mean, my first few campaigns I put up original artwork and it just sat there. It didn't move, and now all 4 pages that I listed were gone and we're a week into the campaign.
This is my question to you, and I'm going to preface it this. So I have books
Mhm.
that sold for good money,
Yeah.
and I was sad to see them go, and it
Yeah.
was painful. But the reason why they went for good money is because I
Mhm.
knew they were special,
Yeah.
and that it was a little bit painful, and I feel sad letting them
Mhm.
go. I have pictures of it. It's up on my Instagram. But the reason why they went for money is because they don't come up in the wild, for lack of a better
Ah,
word. And if I see it in the wild, I think I'm going to wind up buying a bunch of these books back. They're cheap in about
mhm.
6 months. I
Yeah.
think this thing called a recession is going to happen. But
Yeah.
I digress. I think I'm going to be buying a bunch of stuff that I sold for legitimately 50 to 60% off.
Mm.
Um, but not my point is, but the books that I did sell, as explained to my mom, they don't come up all that
Yeah.
often in the wild, and when they do, they're expensive. Now,
Mhm.
I was smart enough where I took the money that I sold them and I put it into the stock market into a dividend producing stock, but neither here nor there. So I was responsible with the money. I didn't blow it all.
Yeah.
But that I would imagine you have a similar reaction. You're like, oh man, I know why this thing went for the price it went for.
Mhm.
I know that it's not coming back up into the wild anytime soon. But
Yeah.
if it was not worth what I sold it for, I would not have this reaction.
Yeah.
And I'm having this reaction because I know it's worth it. And it sounds circular, what that logic, but I
Yeah.
think that's the way it can only be described.
Yeah. I think with any of the original art pages, the odds of me ever seeing them again are very slim because generally the collectors that are buying original art from basically an unknown series. I mean, yeah, I have backers on Kickstarter, but the general population, if you mention Immortal Era, they're not going to have any clue what you're talking about. So the only chance that I would see them back in the wild would be if something happened with the series to popularize it, because someone who bought it on eBay is never going to get back what they paid. But I'm never going to undersell it because I believe in the project. And if I undersell it, then I'll just live in pure regret. If I say, okay, here's an original art page and I'm selling it for $20, then I'm kicking myself. So no, I say, all right, that regular page is worth 150. That splash page is worth 200 because to me, that's the price it takes for me to let it go, because it hurts to let any of these go because these are all pieces of my creation that just mean so much. So I have to put it at a price that makes me feel good, decent about myself for actually selling it. And when you value your own stuff, and that's what I noticed, people will value it as well. When I get my stuff graded, so many indie creators don't bother getting their stuff through CGC. And I tell them, do it because it legitimizes your table. If you're at a Comic Con, you're in a sea of amazing indie comics and amazing indie creators. Everyone around you's probably got a great book they're trying to sell, but you have to catch the eye of somebody who isn't ready to buy an indie book, but they collect CGCs. So the fact that you have a CGC or you have original art pages for sale, it elevates your table to a different level.
It's very interesting that you bring that up, where it's the idea that if somebody says, I'm going to do 100 limited print run of a book, it
Mhm.
is an elevator in a lot of ways. Or if somebody says, look, I'm doing 200 copies,
Yeah.
I've been criticized, and people are like, why are you going to print 200 copies on a limited position, selling them for $30? And I'm like,
Yeah.
because that's a statement to every other indie comic creator that A, I believe in this. B, I'm
Yeah.
confident enough that I'm going to sell 200 of these books. And in
Mhm.
3 or 4 years from now, you're going to be like, there's only 200 of these books. Man, I got to get my hands on one of those things. And
Yeah.
that's the whole thing, because it's a long term and I'm all about imaging. I bring
Yeah.
this up again. This is a limited 50 metal card. There's a reason why there's only 50 of these out there. Again, it's exclusivity. And I can tell you that
Yeah.
I'm only selling 40 of these. So 10 of them are not for sale. There's
Yeah.
121 of these, and I only have 54 of them. My
Okay.
business partner has 60 on
Mhm.
them. And so, again, though, it's the idea that it's exclusive, it's limited,
Yeah.
121 and 50. And not all of them are, right now, they're both for sale on eBay. But
Mhm.
I'm not reprinting that image, and I'm not reprinting my DJ Croft. And
Yeah.
I value it enough, and people don't understand that exclusivity matters.
Yeah.
And CGC matters as well. And I think
Mhm.
that original art matters, and I think it's also image and saying, hey, look, I trust this enough.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make this work. And that's
Yeah.
where I'm at, is that I understand exclusivity. I've made a fuck ton of money selling 200 print run books, 50 print run books, 100 print run books, 75
Yeah.
print run books, and those books go for money. And
Yeah.
there's a reason why, because when you limit something, it changes the game. And
Yeah.
I think that you have limits. You have short print runs. I think you have
Yeah,
like
I do 25 for those, so I try to keep them very small so that the people who collect them, and I have one or two collectors that own everything I've ever printed, like the LA Comic Con one, the Virgin Sketch, and they own all the short prints, and it's like, to know that only a few collectors in the world have that is nice. And then issue 1 is on its 3rd print now, and people always ask me, "Oh, what can I do to get a first print?" I'm like, "You can pay me, because I'm not selling that 9.8 CGC of a first print for a penny under $250." And a lot of people, they roll their eyes like, "All right, who's this guy think he is?" But I think I would regret it more, because I know there's not any issue 1s lurking around in the wild that I'm just going to be like, "Oh, I went into a comic shop and found 10 of them." The odds of that are pretty slim. And I know, okay, the fact that I got a 9.8, which through all the ones I ever sent in of issue 1, I pulled 3 total, and this is the last one. I make sure that people know I'm not willing to undersell it. And when you do that, I mean, I had someone at the last show buy the 9.6, and I had a price tag of 150 on it. And he's like, "Well, is that flexible?" Nope, that's the price. And when he sees me that rigid, he believes in it too. So I think making people believe in your project that's goal number 1. Because if you don't believe in it yourself and you're like, "Yeah, you're right, that's only worth like $20, you can take it for that," then they're going to think less of you as well.
Yeah, no, it's a tricky business, and I also have positions where there's books that are just not for sale.
Yeah.
I can tell you that I've archived like 5 of these for myself. I've archived 3 of these for myself. I'm producing more metal cards. Eventually,
Yeah.
by this year, I'm going to produce a comic, and
Mhm.
I am absolutely buying the original art. No
Yeah.
question about it. And I am not selling the original art. And I
Mm.
know that when people see it, they're going to be like, "I know why you wanted it, because
Yeah.
I'm booking the cover, and I'm
Mhm.
booking an awesome cover, and it's going to hang up, like pretty much over my desk. And
Yeah.
I'm going to be getting books graded for
Mhm.
myself, and I'm also going to be getting a bunch of other stuff graded because I know it sells, and I know
Yeah.
that there's a premium, and that's the whole thing, is that nobody's going to know this artist, but everybody's going to know this artist once you see her and see what she
Yeah.
does. See this cover, you're going to be like, "Oh man, I remember the '90s, and things were simpler back those days."
Mm.
You're not a '90s kid, I can tell you that.
That's more college, high school for me in the 90s, 80s kid.
I'm a '90s baby,
Yeah.
so I'm doing a cover that's going to be a tribute to the '90s. We're like, okay,
Nice.
I get it, and the '90s are hot right now. So
Oh yeah, it's kind of the 80s. People are done with their retro 80s stuff and they've moved into the 90s. So we've jumped.
that's because my generation is finally having money to
Yeah,
waste.
I guess so. They have the money to spend, where I had to drop all the money trying to get all the old first generation Transformers and all the GI Joes, and I had to hunt those down. Now, our generation already owns all that stuff, and now it's moved into the 90s. And yeah, I walk into Target and I see in there, $10 t-shirts, Smashing Pumpkin shirts. I'm like, "Oh wow, we've moved to that," because it was Queen before. Now it's moved to Smashing Pumpkins and Pearl Jam. So definitely seeing that 90s heat going on right now.
But I digress, because I definitely think, talking about CGC, and I think a lot of creators need to know how to do that. And
Yeah.
I think it's okay if you just are doing your first comic, that you don't do the CGC stuff initially on your first thing, because you don't have
Yeah.
it, and then you don't want to keep people waiting. And CGC is a complicated beast, but once you have
Yeah.
books, you should definitely, if you have extra number 1s on your project, definitely send some for CGC, or even ask customers and possibly just do private sales, because that's another thing
Yeah.
that works too. One of the things that I'm fortunate is that I have an eBay store. and
Ah,
I have an eBay business, so I have distribution, and that's why I have metal cards. I have a different business model off of my Kickstarters,
hmm.
and that I have the privilege where I have distribution.
Yeah.
So it's very helpful, and I've had it before where I buy a lot of other comic books.
Hmm.
So my distribution channels and my business acumen is slightly different than normal Kickstarter people.
Hmm.
Not saying I'm making more money because some of you
Hmm.
people are make bank, but that's not the point. That's not the point. Um,
Yeah.
if I could write half as well as half the people on Kickstarter, I would be a made individual. But I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. But I digress again. But there's some other stuff too. Like this right here is a bunch of stuff with Immortal Error.
Yeah, those are all the 25 copies, and I actually just sold the issue 4 one today, and that was my last one. So that print run is sold out, the purple one, and that is sold out. So there's one left, and that's my 9/8 CGC that I own myself that won't go anywhere. So those are moving fast, and then the Virgin Sketch ones, those are most of that run is sold out as well. So they've been moving well. Like if you look, you don't see a number 1. I sold out the number 1 at the last con I was at. I had a guy come and buy one of each one. So people buy those. Sometimes they'll sit a while. Like I did issue 1. I did a short print of that one, and I actually sent it around the world. I sent it to Italy. I sent it to Brazil to get triple signed by the art team. And it took probably about 2 years to finally sell out the 25 I printed, but now they're gone and you get people asking. I mean, everybody wants issue 1 first print stuff. That's the biggest question I get at a table. And yeah, now like we were talking before in one of our previous interviews, like having stuff coming from the archive. So I think with issue 7, I'm going to put back a few of the original art pages from issue 1 for the first time, because in that first campaign they kind of sat there, but now there's going to be more people that might actually want a specific piece from that. And then I had the first person ask me if will you send the book into CGC for me so I can get it, yellow signature series. And I'm willing to do that. So that was the first time someone has asked me, can you actually send my book in before you send it to me? Can you send it off to CGC? So this will be the first time that someone's asking for that. And I might, on my next campaign, offer that as a tier where you can buy the book and I will send it off to CGC and I guess you can guarantee a minimum of a 9.6 because we look them over pretty carefully, and that 9.6s and 9.8s are generally what we pull. So you can offer that as a tier to actually get the book before anybody else has a copy of it sent off to CGC.
Yeah, no, it's people want books graded. Obviously, people
Yeah.
want signatures. There's a whole big market for all that stuff, and then
Mhm.
also limited stuff is important. I mean, I
Yeah.
have 50 print run books that I picked up off of Kickstarter, and they're beautiful. They're hollow foils, and
Yeah.
it's very very nice because I'm like, oh snap, there's only 50 of these books out there, and
Yeah.
it's the idea that protecting value and a variety of other things, you
Mhm.
know. I'm purposely doing a 200 print run book
Yeah.
because I know that it'll take me 2 years to run it. To print 200 copies of a book is not that expensive. The
No.
art isn't that expensive, but also I view it as cash equivalency. I'm a stock guy, I'm a crypto guy.
Mhm.
I view just as equity and cash
Yeah.
equivalency. My metal cards, this right here is cash equivalency to me. That's
Mhm.
what it is. It's actually metal cards are dirt cheap to make, but
Mm.
that's not the point. It's that's money to me because I
Yeah.
know eventually they're going to sell. And so
Mhm.
that's the whole thing is that, and I'm presuming you view it the same way.
Yeah.
And you have to, is that your Immortal Error number 1, 9.8, graded is worth money. And whether
Yeah.
it's like a stock, it just has to appreciate.
Yeah.
So I'm just broke. So otherwise, I'd be
Hmm.
probably taking a stab at it. So I don't feel like selling my Ethereum to buy it right now. Nor,
Yeah.
nor do I think I would survive my mom's wrath if it's like, why'd you sell your crypto, Andrew? And then it's such a bad joke. But anyway, um, And then even going further into this, because obviously there's these and posters,
Yeah.
and you could pretty much get a poster of any cover, I think.
Yeah, I think I have every cover, and then I have one. There's the one with Father and the Sword, and that was done for an art contest I ran back in 2020, and he was the winner. And I actually only printed 10, and he was willing to sign them all. So those ones there, that's the only one that's not a cover. But basically, every cover, there's only one cover that I haven't done as a poster, and one day I will. I just haven't yet. It was the short print of issue 1 that has Ari leaning against a train and writing in her journal.
But I'm pretty sure that those aren't all that limited, minus that 10.
No, just the 10 one. Any of the other ones, if they sell out, I'll order more. I'm not here to make everything I make limited and hard to get. Stickers, when they sell out, I'll order more. I make the character pins, and when those sell out, I'll order more, because people, pin collectors will buy my stuff. They won't buy the book, but they'll come up to my table, they'll see the pins, they'll buy a set of pins and have no interest in the series, but they just like collecting pins. So those ones, when they sell out, I'll definitely go to the company and say, all right, I need another batch of whatever character's gone.
Yeah, because at a certain point, and I don't know how you feel, but I don't want everything to be limited.
No.
Sometimes in life, a poster, I just don't have money. I want a printer. I want a poster. And like, I hate when somebody does a limited 50 on a print. I get on a comic, I get on certain things, but like after a while, it gets old and it gets excessive and it just gets frustrating. And so I'm not a big fan when people limit every little thing. It's kind of like, if I know people who limit a cover A, and I'm like, why would you limit a cover A? I can understand a cover B, C, or D, but why a cover A? That to me just doesn't. I can understand somebody doing a second print run of a cover A.
Yeah.
But to get rid of the whole, say, 200 and then we're out, drives me crazy.
Oh no, with my cover A's, which are just the regular prints, I would call them, they're not gonna go out of print. The only way they would go out of print is if I have the trade. Most people would probably just want to buy that because it's more cost effective to buy it in trade form than to buy each single issue. So the one issue that I will constantly keep in stock and in print would be issue 1, because people are going to come to the table. They may be interested, but not interested enough to drop $25 on a trade, but interested enough to pay $5 for issue 1 and see, is it what they want? So issue 1 will be the one that will be in constant print. The other ones, if there's demand, if I see people still wanting single issues, I'll put them back in print. The only ones I won't put back in print, and that's kind of my promise to collectors, would be the short print ones. Once I print those 25, they're gone. And then I always have the table copy, and I say, all right, if you want the table copy, it goes for half price. It won't be numbered, and it's not part of the run, but it's a table copy. It's yours, because once it's gone, it's off the table for good. So I've sold out of a lot of even my table copies, but that's kind of, you always order a few extra, because I made the mistake the first time of limiting it to 25 and only ordering 25, and then you get a couple with a little ding and you realize I can't sell that to a collector. You're selling it on its rarity, that there's only 25 of them, and now you got this nice corner ding. They don't want that. So I always order about 3 extra for that, just in case. 1 to sit on the table, so it's your eye candy and the people don't have to get the one that's been drugged from con to con. And then 2 for that, this one's got a little ding, and those ones can be the ones those will be reader copies if my kids wanted to read them.
Yeah, no, I get it completely. And which I ordered extra metal cards for that sole purpose, where I've learned that thing. And then obviously this is some CGC stuff. It's just to throw that up there, and some of them are sold out, right?
Yeah.
That 9.6 is no longer available.
Oh, it's not? I haven't seen that. Someone bought it. I haven't looked at the campaign. I got home from work and went straight to my run and haven't looked for a little while. So if that's gone.
I legitimately got this entire photo like 3 days ago.
Okay.
So I took this photo straight off of your Kickstarter 3 days ago. And then I haven't looked at anything because I built your interview, I think, on Thursday night.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh man, let me just pull a bunch of photos because I'm
Yeah.
probably going to be not functioning on Friday. I'm
Mm.
definitely not going to be. I functioned on Saturday perfectly fine. I was
Yeah.
done on Sunday. I could tell you that. If you saw me on Sunday, it was not pretty. It was not
Hmm.
pretty. I'm the first person to say it. Um, 10 shots in, not the best decision
Huh.
in my life. Um, but hey, it was with Dr. Pepper, so it's all right. Um, woke up on Monday and was surprised that I was alive.
Hmm.
And here we are right now on Tuesday. It's Tuesday, right?
You made it to Tuesday.
And then what? Isn't there like a good holiday on Thursday?
I wish I could go for that. Although I get spring break next week, so I cannot complain.
Hey! It's a holiday where everybody gets to start acting like me in 2 days, and I don't have any interviews, so I'm thrilled. But anyhow,
Nice.
anyhow, but yeah, no. That. So there's a lot of money here, and there's a lot of books there, and I don't know
Yeah.
if anything else is not available. I don't think.
Yeah. I don't know. I like I said, I haven't looked, and I think there's still one more of the 9/6s. The issue 3. Yeah, I think I'd have to see. I know I have one of my CGC collectors who hasn't got in there yet, and he'll snatch up a few because for some of them, there's literally one left, and then the only other one that exists is sitting in my private collection because I keep one CGC of every book for myself.
Yeah, that's important, and definitely archiving is something that I think a lot of people don't really appreciate and understand.
Yeah.
And it's important to archive. It's also important to personal spec as well.
Mhm.
My friend Larry Higgins, Naomi Comics, he keeps a few because he doesn't like flippers. So he will
Ah.
actually outflip a flipper. And
Mm.
so it's the idea that if somebody's trying to put up a book, and somebody's selling a book for 150, he'll try to sell it to somebody else or the same person that person's selling for like 80. So it benefits the buyer
Yeah.
tremendously. And he's making good money on it. I don't think he's gonna mind me
Mhm.
saying it because it's not a bad thing, but it's the idea that if I have books, that's how I'm gonna act too. Is I'm gonna keep 5 just so that I can influence the market and benefit of the buyer.
Yeah.
So because what do I care if I make a little money? If I make a 4x and I prevent somebody from having to pay an extra $70, that's a good day for everybody.
Hmm.
So that's all I'm gonna say on that point. And yeah, you got a lot of stuff going on. Obviously, the pins. There's T-shirts. Um,
Yeah.
there's the dad hat. I think you have a dad hat, right?
Yeah.
Hey! Somebody's got to do it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't
You
know
know,
how they got called dad hats. I'm like, all right, I guess that's what I wear. It would have been a baseball cap back in the day, but now it's been recategorized as dad hat. But I'm like, all right, I guess I'm getting old. You realize
and,
that at certain points.
then you got a foil cover, limited edition, and then you
Yeah,
have all the short books for issue 6, plus the Los Angeles or Angels Comic Con,
yeah, the Los Angeles Comic Con one.
which is an exclusive of issue 1. If I
Yeah,
am.
it's issue 1.
So that's only in that pack, and then I think is the foil also in that pack or no?
The foil's in that pack too. Yeah, you'll get basically if you buy that pack. And I sold the pack out. I only put 5 of them up, not thinking that there would be much demand for them, and sold the 5. So I just had to kind of play a shell game and drop a couple of the regular prints to make a couple more bundles. So I made a few more bundles available, just juggled the numbers. So there's still 25, but people seem to want the bundle. So I want to make sure I keep that one out there. And I think last issue I sold all but 3 of the short print cover on the Kickstarter. So I tell people if you want to get those, there's no guarantee that they're going to even last through the Kickstarter because the foil's moving quick. People seem to really like the idea of getting the foil cover. So that one, yeah, I had talked to a few other creators and they said, yeah, foil just does exceptionally well. So I thought I'm going to at least give it a shot because I think that particular cover will look nice in foil. So it was my experiment, but people seem to really be taking to it. So it's something I'm going to
Also,
talk to my cover artist about doing more in the future, ones that'll look good in foil.
also, I'm assuming you did a whole foil cover and not a spot foil, right?
No, it's a full foil.
Yeah, because Comics Wellspring just does a full foil, and those do well, and people really like that type of stuff.
Yeah, that's the one I'm doing. I'm doing a full foil, and then I'm actually doing a comic shop exclusive for one of the local comic shops out here, and we're going to do a foil cover of something. One of the patrons of the shop is also an artist, so he did an exclusive cover, and we're going to do that one for the comic shop. So that'll be 2 foil covers, and for that one it'll be pretty much, they'll have it on their website, but I won't put those on any of my campaigns. But this one for issue 6 will be only through the campaign, and the way it's moving, I'm thinking it might not last through the campaign. So it's kind of grab it now or don't get it. And I don't have all 25 listed. I have 5 that are going to be kept aside for going into CGC.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And obviously people like exclusivity, people like foils, people like
Yeah.
different things. It's a whole big issue. And there's a debate where, you know, people say obviously we are in a very digital age. There's digitalization pivot 2.0. And people think when I bring that up, I think that comics are going digital. I don't think comics are going digital. I think the way they're being sold is digital. I think social media is a bigger influence
Yeah.
at this point. I think the idea that having a bigger footprint on social media, Facebook, Instagram, being on podcasts, running an eBay business, running a Shopify store, I think all of that is much larger. Doing Facebook Live sales, things like that, I think are the future of how to sell comic books. I don't think that that's how I view digitalization 2.0. I am a big proponent of it because every single interview since March of 2020 has been because of COVID and digitalization pivot 2.0.
Yeah.
And I'm the first person to say that this entire show is a byproduct of that pivot. So I'm a massive proponent, and moving forward, when I launch a comic, no question, it's going to be digitalization pivot 2.0. No question about it. And I'm smart enough to understand that that's a big factor. And I think your Kickstarter's proven that because people really want to buy exclusivity on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So that's my point. Feel free to disagree. It's okay. I'm more than happy to have that debate with anybody on that. If people think I'm wrong, and even at cons, I think, you know, I personally don't want to sell to 20,000 people at a convention. I want to sell to 20 million people online. And that's just how I view things. But again, I'm a different beast than other people. But you got a lot of stuff going on with this entire Kickstarter. Are you fully funded yet or no?
It's fully funded. Yeah. It funded yesterday morning. It funded, and now it's just working toward unlocking stretch goals.
And so where is your first stretch goal coming?
Actually, we've unlocked a lot of the stretch goals already. We have a digital comic bundle that'll have about 10 comics from other creators. There's this, there's a pin. I got a Finish Line Comics pin, like writing pin. We have, I think all 3 stickers have been unlocked. So all 3 covers, the regular, the foil, and the short print cover, we'll have stickers of those. And we're like, I believe about $50 away from unlocking the first magnet. So we'll unlock 2 magnets, and then after that, we'll unlock the actual Dr. Mann pin to close out the character pin set. And then I don't have anything set for beyond that, but if we get beyond that, I've already started working on making a backer card for the pin, so you can display all 5 in one thing, and it'll be kind of a Hope Village backer card. So that, I figure it might end up being next campaign that it gets unlocked, and you'll always have the option to get all the pins if you missed them. But I mean, if things go really well, then it'll get unlocked this campaign. So it's already in the works, but I unlocked stretch goals all the way up to 4,500, or I created stretch goals all the way up to 4,500. And if I need to, I would be more than happy to create some more.
It's a good problem to have.
Oh, absolutely.
And I've learned that the hard way. But I didn't unlock any stretch goals, and I'm ashamed. And but we all start somewhere.
I unlocked none on my first campaign, so it happens. You gotta build the audience. The first one was a lot more of fun. I ended up getting a stretch goal anyway, just because we didn't quite unlock it, but I had already printed it and thought, I'm gonna put this in there. And it was it's called a pop patch, but it was basically a sticker or iron-on of the characters. And that one was in the first campaign. So it didn't get unlocked, but I thought, hey, you know what? I got funded. I'm gonna call that a win. And I threw it into everybody's envelopes.
Yeah, I'm gonna be. Hey, when I come back for season 4, I'm gonna redo the entire thing, and let's just say aggression is going to be very, very fun, and I'm going to be very aggressive that round. But we are coming into podcast format, which was supposed to be unlocked at 1,000. So
Yeah.
you could take my entire library wherever you go, and that means that everybody's been on my show the last 3 years. It's just further exposure,
Yeah.
and so that's a win I call, and that's sort of being out of my pocket a little bit, but it makes sense. And
Yeah.
but I'm open to anybody who has any recommendations for hosting. So everybody who wants can chime in on that point. But that's the
Yeah.
there. Yeah, you got a lot going on, and obviously you're fully funded. You're hopefully going to unlock that Dr. Man pin, and I think you're going to get there. I do.
I'm hoping so. It's only been a week, and it's shown good movement. So I feel confident enough. I've already ordered the pins, so I didn't want to make the backers have to wait too long. I figured, you know what? I want the pins, and then I'm actually, as soon as lettering's done, I'm going to order the books so that once the campaign closes, there's no delay. Because I ran a little longer campaign this time. I didn't do a 30-day. I did 40. But that was mostly because I wanted to have it active for WonderCon, which will be, I'm hoping I can get people convinced to back it at the con. I mean, I can't offer them too much because I know a backer can easily back it and then cancel their pledge. But my thought is I want them to back it. Like, here, take a sticker pack if you back issue 6 right now. And if they don't, if they decide to cancel, I mean, you hope they don't, but if they do, what if I lost a few stickers? It's not going to kill me. It's not like saying, okay, free book for doing it, or I can give a slight discount. It'll be time I've had an active campaign at a larger Comic-Con. So I'm hoping I can get some traction at that on its last few days.
That's interesting, in which that I actually might do that, where I might go and do a panel at a con when I have my next podcast thing and be like, hey, you got something going on, you back it,
Yeah.
I can throw in some metal cards.
Yeah.
Because metal cards are dirt cheap. Metal cards are like 85 cents to produce.
Okay.
So what did I lose by ordering 100 metal cards? And if somebody throws me a buck, what do I care?
Yeah.
And it's just good positioning and say, hey, here's my Kickstarter, here's my iPad. You can have fun, and if they decide to cancel, that's fine too.
Yeah.
But this is 85 cents to produce. So
Nice.
it's not
Gotta look into
that's
something
not a
like that.
secret. Anybody will tell you what I paid for them. And Fairy Metal guys, use them. They're not a sponsor, but you should use them for metal cards. That should be your like 6,000 stretch goal. You should just join the metal card club, man.
Hey,
Look,
I get if I need to think of one, I think that's a good idea. I'm hoping I have to think of plenty more of them. So yeah, that's definitely a good idea.
I mean, just look at that. This is what it's going to look like, your book, by the way.
Yeah.
It's going to look like a foil. This is exactly how it's going to look. But
no, it's gonna be amazing. I'm so excited to get those in hand.
So if you sell out all 20, does that mean there's only going to be 4 available at conventions?
Yeah, and they would be graded, so they would be a lot more, because the ones that are going to be available at a convention are definitely not going to be loose ones, unless I don't sell the 20. If I sell the 20, then the 5 that'll be available will be on my CGC rack.
That's crazy. crazy. I gotta produce something. It's coming, and everybody might hate me when I produce the book I want to produce because it's brilliant on so many levels. But I digress.
Hmm.
I'll tell you after off air because somebody's gonna steal it, and I don't want anybody to steal
You
it.
don't need to be giving ideas away because I have another book that's going to launch. I'm hoping after the trade, I have a book that I want to launch that it'll be in the same universe as Immortal Era, but it'll be taking place in the 90s before immortality is kicked in. So we'll kind of see a little bit of that universe before everything went to hell.
Oh, that'll be fun. That's gonna be fun, and I'm sure you'll come back on and talk about it.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
I'm sure that you'll be back on either for issue 7, the trade paperback, issue 8, or that other, before Immortal Eras.
Yeah.
Previously, before
Hmm.
time travel was invented.
Previously in the 90s.
when things were good. It's-
Yes.
when life was simpler.
Yeah.
And but I digress. I'm giving you all the wrong ideas, and I'm dissuading so many people. But yeah, that's what's coming. And obviously, you got a lot going on. So I do want to give you a chance to self promote
All
because
right.
obviously you've been on. I think this is the 4th time. You're always welcome back on. I appreciate you actually donating to my campaign or pledging to my campaign because it did help to keep me in the game at least for another few months, if not another year. So I appreciate that. But where can people find you? Where can people find the Kickstarter? Where can people support you? Where can people pick up different merchandise from you and the whole shebang?
All right. So all my social media is under Finish Line Comics. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You go and search up Finish Line Comics. At this point, we're the only one, so it's easy to find. If you go to finishlinecomics.com, I have a web store there. And the better way to buy it right now, of course, is through the Kickstarter. So it's search up Immortal Era 1 through 6, and you will find everything that's available, and you'll get your chance to pick up all the back issues if you wanted to start from the beginning, issue 6, and all of the different variant covers while they're still available. Because like I said, the foil one is moving quick, faster than I would have ever imagined. And then posters, we have a large variety of t-shirts. Pretty much whatever cover you've seen, there's a poster of it and a t-shirt of it. So I try to make a lot of different designs of the t-shirts and the posters, and they're all with the t-shirts, they're all printed on demand. So I don't have this large surplus of t-shirts. It's basically, you want a shirt, I'll get it printed for you. And all of those things are available on the Kickstarter right now. So that's the best way to get in there. But if you're impatient and you want your books now, head to my web store. It's you can find it on finishlinecomics.com. It's through Big Cartel, and you can buy things. And if you wanted a book right now, you buy it today. I'll ship it tomorrow. So for those who can't wait, that's your way to do it. And if you can wait, Kickstarter's your way to go because you'll get all the cool free swag already, some digital comics, 3 free stickers, and hopefully even more to stuff your stretch goal envelope nice and fat.
Yeah, and I'm sure that if you're looking for something in particular and you ask Ed, I'm sure that something can be worked out. If you're looking
Yeah.
for a piece of original art and Ed still has it and the price is right, I'm sure you could work something out either on the Kickstarter or off the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
If not to put you on the spot, I don't know if you're open to it, but obviously at some point the original art for issue 1 is coming, and if
Yeah.
somebody wants it, I'm sure that something could be worked out collectively with everything.
Yeah, absolutely. If you see a page, if you've read the series and you see a page that really you want badly, there's certain pages that aren't for sale. There's certain pages that my wife has claimed. There's certain pages that I love, but there are plenty of pages that are available. And if you saw one like, oh, I love this page from issue 3, you tell me, and I'm going to tell you the price. A lot of times I'm going to tell you the price and you're going to say, no chance I'm paying that. But if you're willing to, I can make a new tier for you, and it can be, a new piece of art. And I still want to add at least 2 more pieces of art to the campaign. I'm just waiting, since the 4 that I've put up went so quickly. I figure probably this weekend I'll pick 1 or 2 more from back issue. So if there's something you particularly want, shoot me a message on Instagram or Facebook, and I would be happy to work something out with you.
Yeah, because and I'm sure that if somebody wanted some package or even a retail pack or something like that, that all can be worked out as well.
Yeah, and I haven't put together a retail package, but that's something, if you're a comic shop and you want to get them, I'll drop them down to a really low price, just a hair over cost, because as long as I don't lose money, I'm okay selling comics at cost, because it benefits me to be sitting on a comic book shelf. So I sell them anytime I sell to comic shops. It's always at my cost. I'm not looking to make a profit. My profit in that is people seeing my book when they walk into a comic shop.
And it's also just getting in front of new eyes and a new environment, things like that. Because, if somebody sees, the 3rd or 4th printing of issue 1, they're like, oh, what is that? And then they might be like, oh, this book's on Kickstarter, and it's more advertising than anything else.
Yeah.
But as I was stating, I'm sure that if there's something somebody wants and it could be all worked out, and I'm sure you're not opposed to exclusive covers as well somewhere down the line. If somebody wants to reach out with you for their shop or something of that nature either. But
definitely,
all that stuff could be worked out privately, and Ed's a pretty friendly guy, and it'll all work out. And we're not related. I just want to make that clear. Our clan is strong, but we're not related. So I needed to clarify that.
Yes. He's not promoting his cousin right now. Like, all right, I'm gonna boost you up. We'll be honorary cousin. But that's about it.
Charged him more. It would have been like triple what you pledged on Kickstarter if we were related.
That's funny.
Hey, this is how I roll, guys. Family always pays more. So remember that if you're a complete stranger and you pledge to my Kickstarter, if my family pledged to my Kickstarter, which they did not, they would have paid at least 3 times more. It's just the type of guy I am. I would like people who are complete strangers to be treated like royalty. It's just the way it works.
The way to do it,
guys. But I digress right there. Before I get you and me canceled, which might be too late, for that. The way this show's going, I mean, it's already taken a nosedive. Right after I had Jim Noble on, it just took a nosedive all the way down. It's terrible. It's terrible. But I'm going to promote myself, obviously, and I'm going to keep saying it. You have to support indie. And what that means is backing Kickstarters. That means that you have to back people's books, pick it up digitally, physically, pick up all the books, 1 of the books, 3 of the books, pick up a poster or a shirt, whatever you want. Goes a long way because it helps to make production happen of comic books. If money's tight, sharing it out. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff's free. TikTok's free, YouTube's free. Goes a long way. You never know who's watching something. You never know who's checking something out. So sharing it out, commenting on things, cool piece of art goes up in a Facebook group, say awesome piece of art, goes a long way. And it does make a difference. If you do back it, you should let people know that you backed it, because that's also important in that regard as well. And also tell a friend, because guess what? Telling somebody, say, hey, I just backed this project. Again, free, goes a long way. It actually means something. And if you are friends with that creator or see that creator, shoot them a friendly message. That also is helpful. Sometimes running a Kickstarter is stressful, and a very positive message saying, hey, I just backed your project, I'm looking forward to it, can go a long way. So I recommend everybody do that. As far as I'm concerned in my stuff, obviously you need your books printed, use Mixam. Comics Wellspring is great too. So don't just change your printer. If your printer is working for you, great. If you're unhappy with your printer, Mixam is a good printer, Kablam's a good printer. So use whatever printer you need to use. You could also use my BCW supplies code, Pop Anime Comics. So you could use that 10% off your entire order. So when you bag and board your books, They're protected, long boxes, CGC boxes, you name it, they protect it. I also have products up on eBay. This is up on eBay, and this is up on eBay. So if you feel so inclined to support me, you could buy directly from me here, or you could shoot me a message on Facebook, and I will happily sell you this stuff. And I have a few other metal cards coming. If you're looking for rare comics, eBay is also where I sell a lot of cool comics that are like 250 print runs, 100 print runs, 50 print runs of some indie books and some main titles, a lot of bad girl art. You could do that. Check out my friends over at Welcome to Slaughterville. Cool Kickstarter that's going on. It's an awesome book. I actually read the book. It's a 48-page fun graphic novel. It's also a board game. So if you're a tabletopper, it's a really cool board game, and you can actually order that stuff. And there's some other games. And if you feel so inclined and you want to donate, I have Buy Me a Coffee. So please go do that. I have a T-shirt as well. It's up in the description. And I'm going to stop shilling myself because my throat's getting hoarse. So I'm going to give you the final word.
All right. If you have the chance, please head over to the Kickstarter, see if anything there catches your eye. And as we were saying before, I'm happy to take any offers that you may have, but hopefully you can read this series and enjoy it, because like we were talking before, it's going to be around for a long while, and I would love to have you come on as a reader.
Well, I don't think I could have said that any better myself. And that is a wrap, everybody.